Well, at Happening Out Television Network, we frequently tell the story of our LGBTQ plus nonprofits. After all, we too are a 501c3 nonprofit in the same model of NPR and PBS. We're media, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We support so many stories on LGBTQ plus healthcare for organizations like AHF and CAN and more. We support the activity of social justice from Equality Florida and SAVE and the National Task Force. We see the value of our grassroots community organizations like Flockfest and Floatorama, our fund, and so many more. However, today's guest is Keith Blackburn, and he is an LGBTQ plus leader in a completely different focus of our LGBTQ community, and that's business. How should big and small businesses interact with our LGBTQ community? Perhaps we don't even understand how important that is for LGBTQ plus. But it is. Business creates our jobs. It creates attitudes from the broader community when they support LGBTQ plus issues. And business support is the backbone of our civil rights movement since Stonewall. So welcome to Unapologetically Queer. I'm your host, Al Ferguson, and I am proud to talk to some of the most interesting people of our LGBTQ plus community who are the most interesting to the LGBTQ plus community. Today's guest, as I said, is Keith Blackburn. He founded the Greater Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber of Commerce in 2011. He is their president and CEO. At Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, our nonprofit mission is based on what we call the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ plus community. We believe our history, and more importantly, our future, are based on these communities. And they are the communities of Black LGBT, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, social justice, and faith. And I'm very excited. Today we get to focus on the vital LGBTQ plus pillar of business. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Keith Blackburn. And I should begin by saying I understand you're unapologetically queer.
That's a good guess.
Yes, it's a good guess. And normally if you're sitting on this show with me, you definitely are unapologetic. Right. All right. Well, in the LGBTQ plus community, we focus on so many things. Healthcare, political advocacy, our social life, even drag queens. But we may not keep queer business, either in its ownership or support affirming business, front and center in our minds. I want to, before we get into what the Chamber does, I want to ask you about that broadly. Do you think that our community pays attention to business needs and its advocacy as much as we should?
It's a good question. The community itself, I think there's more focus on the 501c3 organizations, the traditional nonprofits, like Sunshine Cathedral, for example, or Pride Center, SunServe, many other organizations. We're a 501c6, so we're still a nonprofit, but we're a business league / Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. So our role is a little bit different. We have a little, in some ways, we have a little more flexibility. I think probably less scrutiny because we are focused on minority businesses, specifically LGBT owned, managed, and we have quite a few allied businesses and members, partners that we work with as well that want to show.
I know a lot of our viewers may not have heard your voice before. You've been around the Fort Lauderdale Go Gay and that branding in Fort Lauderdale has been around for a long time. But help those that don't know you and what the Chamber does. Help us understand why an LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce is important.
Well, when I first became aware of the Chamber and the role, I had become chair of an organization called the Rainbow Hospitality Alliance, and that comprised of LGBT properties, guest houses, hotels, resorts that were both in Fort Lauderdale Beach and a couple sprinkled throughout downtown. I had a property myself named Mary's Resort after my dog at the time. We were pet friendly, LGBT, welcoming owned property. And around, I guess, I would say 2000, the real estate market changed. There was a change where a couple of things were happening. One was that some of the properties were sold, closed, because there was a real estate crash. A lot of people forget, but that happened. It had a big impact on a lot of people. And at the same time, a younger generation of LGBT, primarily men that traveled, didn't seek out just to be in a property that had only men. A lot of them were clothing optional at the time. So that was changing. There was a transition happening. So I was looking at our organization at the time, and we were dwindling and we were going down slowly. And in the past year alone, we've lost some properties. Some properties have sold that were LGBT owned. So I think we just have a couple now. A couple small ones left.
And the goal when you transitioned from Rainbow Hospitality to the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber, what was the goal behind it in terms of the formation?
Around the same time, I had traveled. I think it was to a conference in San Francisco with the IGLTA, who I was a member of, and I traveled there representing both my property and also the organization at the time. And not too long before that, the National LGBT Chamber was formed, and they had affiliate chambers throughout the country, not as many as now. And so I met with them, and I saw what they were doing, and I felt that we could really use that in Broward County and greater Fort Lauderdale area, and that to expand what we were doing to promote our hospitality businesses, to increase that reach and to increase it from a small area to all of Broward County. So I reached out to that organization and reported back to our board, and it took a couple of years actually to transition. And we ended up, instead of transitioning, I founded the new organization that we have now. And then the board of the previous organization at that time voted to close that organization down, and we had all the members that were left had become members of the new organization, and we expanded from there. So that's how that happened. It didn't one closed, one opened.
I imagine many of our viewers have heard of a Chamber of Commerce. And for those that don't know, perhaps, chambers of commerce are sentinel to the strength of any community. Broadly, the business in the community is the economic driver in the community, especially often in places like Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, tourism. I'm curious, in terms of a chamber that is a traditional chamber, the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, is the Fort Lauderdale Gay Chamber very similar? Are there any differences between what the general broad chamber does and what?
Well, there are differences, and I think the confusion is mostly over after 12 years now. But in the beginning, when like I said, it took 2 years for the organization to begin to launch, and during that same period, they had begun a council at the Fort Lauderdale Chamber. The GLBX Council had started. So the timing, I guess, for us was a little unfortunate, and maybe for them as well, because there was confusion. We have always been different. I don't feel we're competing. We have members that are members of both. Actually, our board chair is also a member of GLBX board. So there's room for both of us, and our focus, we are an affiliate. We're independent, but we're an affiliate of the National LGBT Chamber, and with that, we get a lot of benefits. We get a lot of support from them. We have a great partnership that's been ongoing. Each year it's been renewed, and we're looking forward to going.
I'm also curious with the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in 2023 in Florida, although Fort Lauderdale is definitely a blue bubble in the state. We're living in this time of all of the the attacks that we have seen from a radical majority in Florida government and from the governor's mansion. Has that created any effects of businesses wanting to affiliate and join an organization like the LGBT Chamber? Has it affected us negatively in any way, or business still?
I think that there has been some changes in the past year. I've noticed there has been, as you know well, there have been a couple protests on the beach. There's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of the talking points that the governor has been using, especially with the youth, saying that we're grooming them, for example, or we're indoctrinating them, which is far from the truth. That's not our focus. I've received hate mail, threatening mail as a result of that, which was unheard of. I can't imagine, like you said, 2023. So this is concerning, and we do definitely have a role to play here. And with the #1 economic driver in Broward County and Greater Fort Lauderdale,
being tourism,
is tourism. And we have lost a lot of conferences. We've lost a lot of events. I don't know the current number. The only ones we really know for sure are ones that were scheduled and they canceled. They said they can't come to Florida because of what's happening. And we've had some warnings that have come out from first, I think it started with Equality Florida, and then we had the HRC sent out a warning, the NAACP sent out a warning, and most recently the Canadian government warned Canadian LGBTQ people to avoid Florida.
All of those stories, by the way, we reported at Court News tonight. I'm curious from the standpoint of the Chamber, given that, do you feel that the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber has a political role, or it doesn't have a political role? Where do you sit on that in terms of what you're watching for Fort Lauderdale and Broward and tourism?
Well, we do. We've had a policy of not endorsing specific candidates by name, but we definitely, going back to marriage equality and other issues that affect our community, we are advocates and we fight for those, and we do that with the other chambers. We have sister chambers, the Miami-Dade in Miami-Dade County or Miami. We have one in Orlando, Tampa, and we just came back from a conference in Denver last month where we all met there. I think there are 54, 55 chambers, sister chambers in the U.S., and we have quite a few outside the country. In various
You must
places.
be doing something right. The 2022 for the South Florida Gay News Best Of, you're the best business group in South Florida.
And we hope people vote for us again.
And you beat me to it, I was going to say. The transition to Out South Florida, you're up for the
yes, we were nominated again,
award,
and we're hoping that we are. We've received it several years through the Reader's Choice Awards from the SFGN.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And we wish you all the luck. We're excited also. 3 of our anchors are nominated for Best Television Personality, including Faye Watt and John Hayden. I want to talk about business broadly from your eye as the executive director at the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber. We've watched a lot of news this year of some stumbles. This year we've seen a number of business issues. M&M with the lesbian, however you defined it, M&M, the yellow M&M. We watched the issue of the merchandise problem during Pride Month with Target. And most famously, the issue that happened with Mulvaney and Bud Light. From your eye, as a business expert and LGBT issues, what do you see going on here? Why are these kind of things happening for business?
That's a question I ask myself. Target, for example, has been, they've supported the community. This was a surprise, and their reason, as far as I know, is that they were worried about the safety of their employees, so they took that off. But for other, I don't recall of any other minority that has had a similar reaction from a corporation just to remove it, just to be done with it, because that's what the other side wants. It goes to the same thing. We think from the business perspective that these boycotts, avoiding Florida, never come to Florida. Those people that are out there saying that, it's just hurting the businesses that need the help the most right now. And one of the things that I do we have a very strong partnership with Visit Lauderdale, and we travel internationally. And we were just in Buenos Aires. Before that, we were in Rio de Janeiro. And although the awareness isn't as great in those places because it's not in the news like it is in the U.S., but people always ask us, why are you promoting Florida in this kind of a climate, political climate? And it's difficult, but we have to do it. We're supporting our community, we're supporting our businesses, both our members and our partners, and also just the community in general. That's our role. And we're trying to educate people and to let them realize that what's coming out of Tallahassee is something that they would love to see us disappear. It's pretty evident. And if boycotts happen and people don't come here, then they've won.
They win.
So we need to show that we're here and we're not going anywhere. It's like the days of act up are gone. We don't have that kind of a grassroots
mentality. And so we've watched this withdrawal, as you're saying. But in 23, we've also seen arguably the biggest business and LGBT story in history as one stepped to the plate, and that is Disney versus DeSantis. What do you think is going on there with Disney, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, I mean, Disney should win. I mean, they have legally and everything they've done. It's obviously something, a personal thing that the governor has against them. I haven't seen too much in the news recently. It seems to be kind of quiet. I guess other stories are leading the headlines,
percolating higher.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I don't.
You're clearly in Team Disney.
Yes, I am. Clearly.
Let's talk about tourism. You mentioned Visit Lauderdale. A lot of people do not realize we're very blessed here in our community in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. Visit Lauderdale is the top LGBT tourism organization in the world, both in terms of its commitment and the amount of money that is spent in promoting LGBT tourism. And that's led by Richard Gray. He's an Out 100 recipient, which just says everything about Visit Lauderdale and Richard's participation. And a lot of people do not realize that Visit Lauderdale has helped contribute 1 million LGBT visitors a year, spending over $1 billion.
Right, and that's a conservative number,
and that,
by the way.
And the numbers go way higher. I'm using the conservative. What do you think about the business of tourism here in Fort Lauderdale?
Well, first of all, I think Richard does an amazing job. He's known everywhere. I travel with him. The two countries I just mentioned, the two trips we were just on, 2 months apart. But I was with Richard traveling on those. But it also takes the support of his CEO, Stacy Ritter, who has done an amazing job as well. She's really the only one of her peers in the state of Florida who has stepped forward and said anything. She's been amazing too, and she is Richard's boss, so she's everything is approved by her. It's approved by the county, what we're doing here, and it's a tough situation, like I said, that we're in. I mean, we're not alone in Florida, obviously, but we have been leading in standing up and trying to show everyone that these are leisure travelers that we're trying to attract here. This is group business. This is conferences, sports, travel, things like that. We're trying to tell them that they're welcome here, and they've spent a fortune doing that, and they continue to do it, and they continue to support the community. So that's something that's really amazing.
Yeah, and the spend of the commitment. A lot of our viewers may not be aware The Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber is seen all over the world because as Visit Lauderdale goes to national events all over North America and really all over the world, you jointly work in a cooperative effort to produce the LGBT travel guide for Fort Lauderdale property.
Right.
Tell us a little about that.
Well, this is our 11th. We're working on the 11th publication, 11-year. It's an annual publication, and this is the collateral that the CVB, the Visit Lauderdale, uses. They're only LGBT specific, by the way, and they do sponsor the publication. It's been very well received. We print it. We publish once a year in digital format and print, and we are encouraging all of our members and others to advertise in there and to promote their businesses and just to show that they're there. It's a lot of people are saying print is dead. They've been saying that for years, but certain niche things, for example, hotspots has always been popular. People pick it up and it's always gone, so they're reading it. And the same thing with this publication. This is a free publication, and we take them to the events internationally. We have them distributed locally, which was something new we added. We expanded during COVID when we continued publishing, but we weren't getting the international travel with everything shut down with what was happening. So we expanded and we focused on the drive market, people within Florida, and we distributed them that way, and we got a good response. So.
One of the other things that I think is super interesting with the LGBT Chamber here in Fort Lauderdale is you have a footprint on Wilton Drive between Sunserve and Alibi as a landmark where your offices are, and you operate a visitor center where you encourage people that are coming into Wilton Drive, which is the most popular attraction in South Florida for LGBT. Tell me about that. What's the visitor center like? Well,
the visitor center it's a multi-purpose building that we have. It's our executive offices are there and our member center, so we allow members to come in if they need to to meet with someone. We have a conference table, we have Wi-Fi, we're set up for that. We've done occasional events in the space. And then the front part of it is a visitor center that's open every day. And we get good foot traffic. It also allows our members to put any kind of collateral, brochures, for example, out front, that's open to the public to see. So we've had that, I think it's been 5 years now. We've been there in that same spot.
I also, Keith, want to ask you about this chamber philosophy. I know a lot of our viewers may think that a chamber of commerce and one for LGBT is focusing on big names, a Truist Bank or Wells Fargo and Bacardi and et cetera and so on. But really the backbone of LGBT chambers are small business.
Well, that's the backbone of the country, really.
Yeah. And explain that.
Small business.
A lot of people don't know
I don't have numbers off the top of my head, so I'm not going to just come up with something. But I do know that small businesses are together are much bigger, have much bigger impact on the economy than people realize. I mean, the ones that are in the news are the Targets and like you said, the Truist and the Wells Fargo, which are big as well. I mean, but small businesses, we have a lot more small businesses than we do big business. So
the majority of employment in the United States is under 50 employee classification of small business, and important to the chamber. Different kinds of programs that you do. One of them coming up is your quarterly network luncheon. We were talking about small business, big business. We also appreciate our big business.
Yes.
It's presented by TD Bank, and it's going to happen Wednesday, September 17th at the Sonesta, Fort Lauderdale.
September 27th.
I'm sorry, September 27th. That's right, at Sonesta. Tell us a little bit about what's going to be going on.
So we've just added an extra little part to that. We have been working, first of all, with TD Bank, I think since 2011 or 12, so it's been a long time. They've been a good bank with us.
Long partnership.
And during COVID, by the way, we did some Zoom meetings, and we did some educational training, and we had people from the small business SBA was there, and the disaster loans, and working with people to get the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program checks, and so we did a lot with TD Bank at that point in conjunction with others. So we worked with them through all of that, and they're a very good community-minded bank, and they are sponsoring this quarterly luncheon. They'll be on hand. We're also going to, we're lucky to have Justin Nelson, who is the co-founder and president of the National LGBT Chamber based in Washington, D.C., who we're affiliated with. We have a partnership with, as I said earlier, with that NGLCC, which is the National LGBT Chamber. And they're working with, along with us, with Grubhub on their community fund grant system. And we had the first round last year. In December, we awarded several checks. And we're going to award 4 different checks to 4 different businesses in conjunction with this Grubhub grant program. So I can say that one of them will be Rosie's Bar and Grill. Bona Italian Kitchen will have a grant. Another is a restaurant, cute little restaurant up in Lauderdale by the Sea called Delicacies. And then we have Milk Money Bar and Kitchen on 13th Street in Fort Lauderdale.
I think that is fabulous because when you come to the luncheon, you get to hear and meet the president of the National LGBT Chamber. And also it's an opportunity to give back to LGBT small businesses that are really delivering in our community. Organizations like Bona Italian and Glenn Weinzimmer, the new announcement that we break the news on about Smart Ride ending. His contributions at Bona and the Give Back Mondays program, and all of these 4 organizations do an amazing job. And then with partnership with Grubhub and TD Bank, it becomes a win-win for everybody. We'll give you now more information on tickets for that quarterly luncheon. And all of the details about what's going on in Fort Lauderdale in the business community and the Chamber of Commerce, you can go to the GFLGLCC.org to get complete details. Keith, plans for 2024? We enter this election year. The politics is clearly going to get crazy. What do you expect is going to happen for the business community and the LGBT business community now?
Well, we've been in sort of standby mode in a way, seeing what's next. It's been a little quiet, I guess, with with DeSantis in the presidential race. I don't know how long that'll be, but
he's clearly failing.
Yeah, he's by every indication, it doesn't look like he's going to.
Which means you get him back.
Well, we get him back, but this is his second term, and so he terms out. So we have to think. We have to already make a plan of what's next, who's next, and will these policies continue? But from every indication I've seen, a lot of the legislators who've have voted along the same lines are not happy with him. They're not happy with the fallout. They weren't happy with Disney, and if you talk to them one-on-one, they're not happy with him. So I think he will go down as not a popular governor. I mean, so that's all good. We need to look. Yeah, we need to look ahead, and we need to keep doing what we're doing to show that we're here, and we need to promote our member businesses and emphasize to people who question whether they should come here or not that they should come here to support what we're doing. We're not coming to Florida doesn't mean you're supporting DeSantis. I mean, we're in a difficult position, but hopefully people will realize that. And I every chance I get, I tell people that they really need to think about the small businesses who really need the support.
Yeah, our reach is significant for all of you, especially if you work in an LGBT affirming business. If you're an LGBT owner, you want to come to the quarterly luncheon that's going to be at the Sonesta, presented and sponsored by TD Bank. It's going to be a great one. It returns lots to our LGBTQ community, and the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber needs us all more in the environment we live in more than ever. In addition to the website, they have a very robust social media. You can see them in multiple places, Facebook, Instagram, etc. For the Chamber. Keith Blackburn, thank you very much. I always think it's interesting because we make the joke, I kind of make the joke in conversation with you. Talking about business is not the most glamorous thing. We could be talking about what's going on at RuPaul's Drag Race, but at the end of the day,
that's business as well, right?
That's right. Oh, well, that's true. That is.
It's
true.
big business.
Yeah, big business.
The drag race is international.
Show business. All right, yes. You got me there. The issue with LGBT business is it's so critical because it's our work and it's our life and it's our social justice.
Yes, and it enables us to support other organizations that are 501c3s, like, for example, the Pride Center, SunServe, right. SAVE. Right. All these organizations are supported by businesses.
That's right.
That's important to know. The one thing I wanted to point out, on our luncheon, we'd love to have everyone come, but it's important that they register in advance because we need to give a head count to the chef.
Right.
And we always have a couple that show up, and we try to accommodate them, but we can't guarantee it. Right. And we have had to turn people away, which we don't want to do if it's sold out.
So do that now, and you can do that at their website. We're giving you that information. Keith Blackburn, a pleasure. This is the first time, all the years I've been down here, this is the first time that we've done something like this. We've got to do this more often. You keep us current about what's going on at the Fort Lauderdale LGBT Chamber.
Well, thank you for having me.